3 days didn't sound like enough time to justify a trip to Florence, but turns out it was perfect. Known for being the birthplace of the Renaissance, its remarkable architecture, and its delicious food, Florence is a city that needs to be experienced to fully appreciate. Each city has its own feel, and walking through Florence felt like being transported back to the height of the Renaissance. And you'll appreciate the city even more if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed 2. I know looking out of my hotel window and seeing the rooftops and the dome made me feel like I was Ezio himself. Typically, when I explore a new city, especially a historical one like Florence, I want to see the artwork, the landmarks, and the architecture that came from there. So naturally, my first stop was to see the dome. First thing I did after stepping out of the hotel was grab a quick cappuccino and walk towards the city center. As the sounds of tourists grew, I could see the baptistry of San Giovanni coming into view, and then the church itself. The details are hard to describe, but everything looked precise and carefully crafted. The dome itself is still the largest masonry dome in the world. I decided not to go inside the cathedral because the lines were too long, and honestly, I didn't come to Florence to stand in the line. An interesting story about the church that isn't widely known is the murder of Lorenzo de' Medici's brother. Lorenzo was the most powerful man in Florence and one of the most celebrated statesmen in Renaissance Italy. By 1478, his family had run the city for 2 generations, but not everyone had accepted his influence. On Easter Sunday that year, a rival family and a resentful pope conspired to kill him inside this cathedral. At the most sacred moment of the service, the attackers made their move. Lorenzo's brother Giuliano was stabbed to death right here. Lorenzo took a wound to the neck, but fought free and ran for the sacristy, where allies bolted the heavy bronze doors behind him. Within hours, the city turned on the conspirators, and dozens were hanged in Piazza della Signoria, which is the main town square of Florence. This was essentially the place where public assemblies, major political events, and even executions were held. Here, you'll find an open sculpture gallery, which has Perseus with the head of Medusa sculpture, among other sculptures that you can check out while you're here. And then standing in front of you is the Palazzo Vecchio, which is the castle-looking building with the clock tower. Here's where those conspirators were actually hanged. Today, it's a museum that has a free courtyard to check out while you're at the square. You'll also find Neptune's fountain and a replica of the Statue of David here. I headed to the Uffizi gallery straight from Piazza della Signoria, and I had the tickets previously booked so I didn't have to wait in line. One of the most popular museums in all of Florence, you'll find works by Da Vinci, Raphael, Michelangelo, Botticelli, and many others here. Even more interesting though is the hallway above the Uffizi called the Vasari corridor. It runs from Palazzo Vecchio through the Uffizi, over the bridge, all the way to the Pitti Palace. The Medici had built it so they could walk between the Uffizi and their home in secret and have an escape route if there were any political uprisings. At the end of the museum, you'll also be able to hang out at the terrace to get a different view of the Palazzo Vecchio. Now, I hadn't done much research before coming here and kind of stumbled upon the bridge, trying to get across the river. At first, I thought the jewelry shops on the bridge were just another tourist trap, until I realized that there was a reason for it. Originally, there were fishmongers and butcher shops, but the Medici family actually had all the shops turned into goldsmiths in order to get rid of the smell, which is why they are jewelry shops today. If you walk straight across Ponte Vecchio and keep going, you'll come across Palazzo Pitti, which became the Medici family's primary residence after buying it from the Pitti family. I didn't know about it, but I missed out on the Palatine Museum, which housed the Medici and Lorraine's private collection of artwork. It houses the largest collection of Raphael's paintings in the world. Instead, I opted for the Boboli Gardens since I had already spent the day checking out the Uffizi galleries earlier and I had enough museum for one afternoon. Definitely gonna check it out once I visit again. The gardens were a nice way to unwind, and they had some cool sculptures. Now, if you want an iconic postcard view of Florence, you can't skip Piazzale Michelangelo. After spending a long day walking through the city and Boboli gardens, catching this view close to sunset was surreal. Although we were surrounded by tourists, street performers, and scammers, this moment still felt unreal. Now, what I haven't mentioned yet were the moments outside of the highlights of the city. Just walking along the River Arno in the late afternoon, or enjoying the musicians performing while walking the streets, give you points to truly appreciate. Getting lost in the winding alleys or checking out the local markets was a great way to spend the time too. Or enjoying a nice gelato on a hot afternoon. And you just can't go wrong with Tuscan food. Both restaurants I tried were absolutely delicious and full of flavor. When you're in Italy, you want to feel like you're in Italy, if that makes any sense. And Florence delivered.